Good news is I don't have a lot. What you're probably seeing is that numbers are going up, however. So I guess we'll kind of see what brings, what sort of happens around COVID in the new year. I read an interesting article in the Atlantic yesterday. It was written by somebody in rural Michigan who said, in my world, COVID is over, basically. So I think it's a good thing to remember, and I'm sure a lot of you who have locations that are not in the Northeast, not on the coasts, for a lot of America, they've moved on, and they're not really spending a lot of time thinking about COVID anymore. There are plenty of states that are saying no mask mandates, no vaccine mandates. So it'll be interesting to sort of see what that brings us as we head to the second anniversary of the first case in the US. But all of that being said, just want to give you a quick update on the where the federal vaccine mandates hold. The ETS, as you know, this was the one that was going to apply to large employees, so employers with 100 or more employees. The original stay was issued by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, but based on lottery, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals is the one who actually gets to make the next decision here. The briefing on that case wrapped up in the last couple of days. We still don't have a ruling. So at the very least, we've already had one ETS deadline passed. The second ETS deadline is early January. So at the very least, those deadlines move back if this thing survives at all. Everything I'm reading suggests that it doesn't survive the legal challenge, but that's sort of a wait and see kind of a situation. In the meantime, OSHA has put something on its website saying, yeah, we're not going to enforce this right now. So kind of wait and see. My guess is behind the scenes, we have OSHA working to try to fix the rule and maybe issue a new rule if it gets stricken down, but let's see. I don't have any inside baseball on that. So, but it wouldn't shock me if the government tries to do something else if this thing gets knocked down. And then similarly, the vaccine mandate for federal contractors, this was intended to apply to covered contractor employees in workplaces where the employees worked on or in connection with government contracts or subcontracts, currently blocked by a federal judge in Georgia. So how the various rules are challenged is a little bit different. The OSHA rule gets challenged directly in a Circuit Court of Appeals. This federal contractor challenge gets challenged at the district court level. So a federal judge in Georgia, in response to a lawsuit filed by 7 states. You see the states listed there, along with the Associated Builders and Contractors, which is an industry group. It's been blocked on December 9th. So a few days ago, the Biden administration filed a notice of appeal to the 11th Circuit. So again, stay tuned. That's, the wheels of justice move slowly. So I don't expect an answer on this at least until the new year. So let's see what happens. So what should you be doing now? I just read a survey that said most employers who haven't already instituted mandates will not institute them if the challenges are successful. So if the government mandates are knocked down, most employers who haven't already put a mandate in place will not. We're going to see local governments responding in various ways. I'm sure you read that New York City is putting in place a mandate. And then we're seeing the opposite in some other states and localities are saying you can't have mandates. So this could start to become very localized, very regional. So kind of stay tuned again and pay attention to what's going on in the local areas, especially if you have employees across the country. So keep that in mind. Another thing, I mentioned this last week, but it bears repeating. There are some new air travel restrictions. These are international. So if you have employees, especially who are traveling internationally for work, you should just be aware of this. There's going to be some restrictions in how they come back into the country, regardless of their vaccination status. And of course, foreign travelers coming to the US have to be fully vaccinated. And then we continue to get a lot of questions on the hotline about we've had an exposure, we have an employee who tests positive. So I just put these in as sort of as FAQs. I've had these slides in on and off for several months now, ever since the CDC kind of changed their approach with regard to this. So the important thing to remember is that you have quarantine, which is for individuals who've had an exposure. You have isolation for individuals who either have or believe to have COVID based either on a positive test or on symptoms. And as far as close contact goes, as far as your quarantine goes, the answer is going to be a little bit different depending on whether you're vaccinated or not, which again, I think is an important reason. There's so many reasons, you've heard me say this before, why I think it's important for employers to know who's vaccinated and who's not and to collect those cards. This is one reason. So that's quarantine, that's isolation. Again, just something to keep a quick reminder, a quick reference for you if you have a case coming into the workplace, either a close contact or somebody who actually has COVID. And of course, what should employers do? This is, I think, as we move more and more into the colder months, as we get through the holidays, I think we are going to see another spike in cases. You don't want to try to encourage sick employees to stay home. FFCRA has expired. Is this time off going to be paid or unpaid? Depending on how your PTO works, it may very well be that people are getting a new bank at the beginning of the year. Of course, one of the challenges here too is I know that some employers think that they have employees, and I'm sure you have some of them, who may use a so-called COVID exposure as an excuse to stay home. So you just need to think about how this works for your workforce and what do you want to do? Are you going to require a negative test to return? Or are you going to require a doctor's note to return? All right, so I will take a minute for questions. I didn't actually see anything come through, and then let you guys get off to your breakout rooms.
I don't see any questions. Amy, another thing that's happened recently is City of Philadelphia yesterday, I think it was yesterday, said that anyone going to a restaurant, and that includes stadiums, indoor stadiums, has to have show vaccine. So there are certainly other pressures on people to get vaccinated outside the employment area as well. So it's good to keep an eye on all of those. No, it just went into effect you have to be vaccinated to go to a restaurant. I think before it was not mandatory for restaurants, but it just came out last night. I think that's it, Amy.